welcome to the fourth episode of my GUI tutorial. In this episode, we are going to get started with lists. Today we are not going to be coding, sadly, and we are going to be on the drawing board. Alright, so here we are. So, this first kind of list we are creating are going to be lists with pages. So, let's jump into it. So, there's the base list, and then we have pages. Now, pages are pretty much what makes up the list. Every list has an array list of these pages. And then we have components. Components can be anything, and they are things displayed inside pages. They can be strings, buttons, or images. But now, where do these components go? Easy. So every page has an array list of these components that it stores, and it has a certain amount per page. You can set all that stuff. So, in review, the list is the base class, and every list has an array list of pages, and these pages have an array list of components, and then there's the components. The components can be strings, buttons, or even images. They can be pretty much anything. So, that about does it. So, I think for the first tutorial, we should get started with something simple. I think we are going to create the component base class and maybe one component, which is the string. So, now, let's get back to coding. So, here we are, back in our project. So, I think we need no more talking. I've explained it all pretty well, so let's jump into it. Now, make sure you put them in the right package, and name this class component. As I said before, this is going to be the base class that every one of them extends. So, what do we need for this? We need a public int x and a public int y. We're going to need a public int width and a public int height. That's all we need for now. That's a simple base class. So, now, we want to make sure that we also create a way to select these. So we're going to create a public boolean is selected. Now, first of all, we have to make a constructor. So, let's make sure we get that. And then we want to pass in the int x, int y, int width, and int height, of course. I'm going to do all the normal stuff, which I shouldn't have to explain. This dot x equals x, this dot y equals y, this dot width equals width, this dot height equals height. And now that we think of it, we have a pretty good reputation for making rectangles in every one of our classes. So, let's not wreck that, and we'll make one in here too. So we'll create a public rectangle collision rect. So, since these are not scrolling list, these components are always going to be static. So we can just set it once in the constructor and never have to worry again. So collision rect equals a new rectangle with the x, the y, the width, and the height. There we go. We've set all of our things. So now we want to create a public void tick, of course. Let me fix my keyboard again. Public void tick. We're going to need a public void render, because all of these are going to have to render. And that is all for now. We may still add things later. Remember that. This is definitely not final. So anyways, we want to make sure that we have a graphics object. Now, in the tick method, once again, we're going to check for collision. So we're going to check if, I hope you remember how to do this. If not, I will still go through it. So you want to go into the main class or wherever you stored your mouse manager, mm.press, and we want to get if the mouse is pressed. If it is, then all of this is true. And as you remember in the button, we made a boolean to make sure that we do not repetitively press. Is selected can act as that for this. So we also want to check to see if it's pressed and is selected also has to equal false. There we go. We do not need to do this, we can simply just put this here. There we go. So then you want to set is, you don't want to set is selected to true. If it isn't called, then it isn't called, right? But when you think about that, that was not a very good idea. It probably will not work. So you know what, for this we don't need it, because unless you're opening like a menu, which we will not be doing, it's completely fine. So anyways, let's jump into the code. So we have to check to see if collision rect dot intersects. Now we do realize something here. When you think about it, we have an array list. We're gonna have a list of components in the pages, and it would be a little hard to handle the is selected in here, right? So we could do it this way, but I'm gonna do it a different way, where I'm going to just set it inside the pages, which you will see next episode. All we have to worry about in this component class is the render. Alright, so we are gonna check to see. Well, first we have to render. You can have an image, so I'm gonna do that for you guys, but I'm not gonna be using an image, so I will just set it and leave it to null, like I have with all of my other things. Public buffered image. Geez, I am kind of being forgetful. I'm sorry. We don't need any of that. So all we're gonna have to do is check if collision rect. So if the rectangle, and once again I'm not thinking, so if it is selected. So if this component is selected, we want to draw a black rectangle around it to show that it is selected. So we're gonna do draw rect. We don't want to fill it, and we're gonna draw it at x, at y, at width, and at height. So there we have that. Now we want to make sure we set the color. G.set color. I think black's a good color for this. We're going to set it to color dot black. And there we go. So that does it in the base component class. So let's start things off right and create a basic component that extends this superclass. So create a new class, and we can call this create an image component. And then down here with the superclass, we want to hit browse and search for component. And you will find it probably as the second one, if not the first. Yeah, the second one. Hit OK, and now you can hit finish. So it will automatically do that. So now we want to go over it. We're going to add the constructor. None of this should be predefined, but when you think about it, we could do it. So you can set the width and height of all of them. But I think we're going to have something in here that lets them. So the x and y is good. Now the width and height, when you think about it, all we don't need is a height. The height we can set ourselves. The width has to be set with the page. So the height for this, let's make him 60. 60 is a good number. You can go around and change that later. Remember that, just to perfect things. So now in the render, so we want to type at least 3 letters, control space, and then hit enter. This overrides it, so we want to make sure we still call super.render. Then after that, we want to do G dot. Now, we would. Here, I'm going to do this so then you guys know how to do it. I'm not actually going to render it, but we're going to create a buffered image for image. And down here, the constructor will take in the image. So, buffered image, control space to import everything. And we're down here, we're going to set this dot image equals image. And boom, that's done. So what you would do is g.drawImage. I'm not going to do that, so you guys can do that if you like. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do g.setColor, and I'm going to set this to, what's a good color? What's a good color? Okay, I'm going to close my eyes, go down, and then stop. Light gray. Okay. Actually, when you think about that, we can't do that because that's the color of my background. So let's try that again. Oh, yep, I just chose the best color. So g.fillRect. And then we want to put our XY width and height. Now, we have to call super.render at the end, because if you remember, all it does is it checks to see if it is selected. So we have to do that at the very end, because we want it to be drawn over the image or the rectangle that we draw. So now we have the image component done. I think this is going pretty fast, so we can probably do another one or two. So we'll create a new class, and this will be a string component. Oh, make sure you have no spaces, and once again we have to select the super class, and we want to search in component, and it should be the first one that comes up because it's a workspace match. So then we can hit finish and add the constructor. Now, once again, we don't need the height, so you can take that out, and here let's put maybe 40. Okie dokie. So this string component is obviously going to need a public string first. It's called string. And just to add to it, we'll also create a public color background color. So now we want to make sure we take those in here. So string background color, no, just a normal color. So now we want to do this dot string equals string, this dot background color equals color, and there we go. Once again, all we have to take in is the render component. So call that, make sure that we put our code before it again, and then what we have to do is we have to render first the background color and then the string. So we're going to do g.setColor to color dot, or actually we can just set it to the background color. Whoops. And then underneath that will be g.fillRect under XY width and height. Now we want to do g.setColor to our text color, which I think is going to be black. Color.black, and we're going to do g.drawString, and we want this one. So the string is of course going to be the string that we created. The X is going to be so is it possible to find string dot width? No. Okay, so we're just gonna have to guess with this. Kinda sucks. We might implement some cooler functionality for it. So we'll put it at X plus, maybe give it 10 padding, and the Y, let's do that and give it. So this is gonna require some math. So we're gonna get the Y, and we're gonna add the height divided by 2. And from that we'll subtract maybe 10 because we still have to get the height of the string, right? So that will mostly center it. And once again, we have finished another class. So the final one we were considering was a button component. Now this is going to be a fun one. So once again, create a new class and call this button component. Probably know the drill now. So go over here, browse, and we want to type in component. And it comes up pretty early now, so we can hit OK, and we can hit finish. So now we have to add the constructor. Once again, we do not need the height. And the height, let's set that to a preset of 80, because that looks good, right? So, there we go. And now, once again, we have to add a few extra variables here. So, of course, we have to get the button, and then make sure you import that, hit finish, and then we're gonna take it in the constructor. We're gonna set this dot button equal to the button in the constructor, and there we go. Now we just have to make sure we tick it and render it. So this time we're gonna get the tick method. We don't have to call super.tick, but it's a good thing in case we end up adding something to that. We don't have to come back and fix it. So button.tick, and then we have to get the render method. Make sure you put it before it calls a super, and we want to do button.render with G. And there we go. We have created our basic components. Next, we are going to create the page, which is going to be quite fun. Yeah, that is the thing that's going to have the array list of components that we can add things to. So, we've added 3 of them. That should do it for this episode. We will test all of this in the next episode, so do not be scared. Anyways, thank you for watching as always, and see you next time.